Hello again, friends. Welcome into Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips joined by Gamecock Central analyst Matt O'Brien for a preview of this weekend's home opener, the East Carolina game set for a 4 o'clock kick Saturday at Williams-Brice. Matt, good to be with you again. How are you, bud?
I'm doing all right. Getting my week going. Really pumped for this game against East Carolina this weekend. How about you, Emerson?
Doing the same. I think a lot of folks are looking forward to the first home game of the Will Muschamp era. And the Gamecocks have obviously got a lot of young players that will be playing their first game in front of the home crowd as well. So folks are getting excited about this afternoon kick. I think the start time is ideal for a lot of folks. People able to get into the stadium with ease and get home by a reasonable hour. Matt, wanted to get your initial thoughts on East Carolina and talk about the Gamecocks a little bit after the loss to Mississippi State last Saturday night.
Yeah, Emerson, before the season started, my expectations for the Gamecocks weren't that high. I thought that they would have an up and down, a tough season. You can call it rebuilding in Coach Muschamp's first year as he still tried to work into the system, into the athletes that were existing at South Carolina while recruiting guys who better fit his system and, frankly, just brought in some more talent to the Gamecocks program. But then in week one, the defense looked stout against Vanderbilt for most of the game. So last week, I did expect them to have a better performance against Mississippi State on the defensive side of the ball, and they just fell flat. For offensively, the Gamecocks still have a long ways to go. But my belief is that this really will be an up-and-down season for the Gamecocks. I'm not going to let what happened last week completely affect my thoughts. And given what I've seen from ECU on tape, I do expect this to be a hard-fought game between the teams, though ECU is certainly riding high at 2-0 and already having beat a Power 5 team last week in NC State.
That's right. East Carolina beat Western Carolina 52-7 in the opener, and they knocked off North Carolina State by 3 last weekend. So they're 2-0 coming in. Gamecocks obviously 1-1, beat Vandy with the comeback in the fourth quarter of the season opener, Matt, but then really got pushed around on the line of scrimmage, I thought, on both sides of the football in Starkville last Saturday. So what do the Gamecocks have to do to get back on track this week at home?
Well, as a former defensive guy, I'll start with the defense. They certainly have to shore it up, the entire unit, by making do with what little depth's there. In the secondary especially, when Chaz Elder went down last week, we saw just how little depth the Gamecocks have back in the back half of the defense. The tackling, needless to say, has to get better if they want to hold anyone from scoring more than 3 touchdowns a game. And on offense, there really is no rhythm right now. Passing and running games aren't working at all. The offensive line looked sloppy and inconsistent and, frankly, got whooped last week by Mississippi State. So overall, the offense needs to step up, or the team will not be able to win many games. But I just really think that this team needs to get their confidence back. And if they believe in the system, trust in the coaches, and just keep improving, I do think they will be able to get back on track starting this week.
Gamecock Central Radio here. Emerson Phillips with our analyst, Matt O'Brien, former Gamecock football player, worked with NBC Sports last year, now a marketing rep for Reebok. He joins us each week on Gamecock Central Radio. We invite you to download the Gamecock Central Radio app. It's a free phone app. It's available on the App Store and on Google Play. To subscribe to this podcast, search for Gamecock Central Radio. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and other popular services, or just visit radio.GamecockCentral.com. Widespread speculation this week, Matt, among the fan base that Brandon McIlwain, the freshman who played the entire second half last week against Mississippi State, led 2 TD drives after the Gamecocks were shut out in the first half, will start this Saturday against East Carolina. Who would you start this week against the Pirates?
Yeah, I was pretty underwhelmed with what I saw from quarterback play so far this season between both of the guys back there. But this week, I'd have to go with Brandon McIlwain. The true freshman just has the better arm, which helps open up the offense on deeper passes. And he also opens up the run game with read options and can also make the defense pay on broken down plays in the passing game. You combine that with the fact that this is the home opener and the fans, the team, the whole program really needs a fresh blast of confidence back. I'd have to go with Brandon McIlwain.
Very good, Matt. What can we look for out of the Gamecock offense this week? We know South Carolina's down 2 offensive linemen. How can the Gamecock offense improve this Saturday?
Yeah, I just touched on Brandon McIlwain, but no matter who starts it for the Gamecocks, I do expect the Gamecock offense to look better against ECU. From what I've seen on tape, this is the worst of the 3 defenses that they've seen so far this year, especially up front. So regardless of whether or not the offensive line has a few guys down, I do think they should be in position to fix their flaws and gain some more confidence back. I know Sean Elliott have his guys ready to play, and they really could use a big confidence booster against an East Carolina front that doesn't look as good or as talented as the past 2 they faced this year. Offensively, I do believe the Gamecocks should rely on those short passes and runs to get the offense going. I know it's easier said than done, but I do think that they at times were asking a little bit too much of Orth and McIlwain on those intermediate and deeper passes. So keep it short, keep it easy, get the quarterbacks and the offense into rhythm early, and which will also help open up the run game with A.J. Turner. I do feel confident this week that the offense will have their best game of the three they've had this year if they can execute on those short passes and those nice runs up the middle.
All right, East Carolina has scored 85 points in its first 2 games this year. They're a spread offense team, Matt, but they're going to run some multiple tight end sets as well, and they've actually got 2 different quarterbacks that will likely play. Their starters got 6 touchdown passes through 2 games, but they have run 2 quarterbacks. They've got a change of pace quarterback. Talk about the East Carolina offense. What do they do well, and how can South Carolina match up?
Yeah, absolutely. They have a good skill set of position players. They have some nice guys who they believe in that can run a variety of routes and also positions from running back to receiver. But with ECU, it all starts at quarterback. I know if you look at the stat sheet, they are quite balanced in play calling between pass plays and run plays, but it's the passing attack that really opens up and allows this ECU team to get into rhythm. At quarterback, they have Philip Nelson. He's looked outstanding so far for East Carolina, completing over 80% of his passes, and he just has outstanding control of the team. And you can really notice that when he throws a ball up to receivers, they've kind of put a lot of trust in him that they can go up and get those one-on-one catches over defenders. So there's a strong trust between the quarterback and receiver, which helps open up the passing game. And he also helps out the run game when they throw in James Summers back there as well in the Wildcat packages. He's a tremendous guy. He converted over from quarterback to running back. He's about 6'3", 220 pounds, runs similar to Jalen Hurd from Tennessee, though not as talented down the field. But it helps open up their offense by having that kind of dual threat ability. Given how much success Nick Fitzgerald had last week for Mississippi State, I'd expect them to use the Wildcat package 3 or 4 times against the Gamecocks this week. But going back to Philip Nelson, not only does he have outstanding control of the offense, but he can really make all the throws. He hits on the deep routes, and he also has no problem checking down to the shorter routes in space and to his check down routes. And then you go over to running back. Obviously, we touched on James Summers as an effective runner out of the Wildcat, but they also have another guy, Anthony Scott. He's tremendous on the year. He has 22 carries for 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has some breakaway speed. He's very small. He's shifty, but he has outstanding power. And he's also arguably their second best receiver, having caught 3 receiving touchdowns so far this year. So he's a guy who I really think will be their X factor that the Gamecocks should be really wary of this week. But as far as matching up with this team that has a lot of speed, they have a lot of confidence, and a lot of guys who can do things on the perimeter, I think as long as they focus on facilitating Zay Jones, who's their best receiver on the outside, I'd like to see Jamarcus King matched up on him personally. I think that King's aggressive style of play could help shut down Zay Jones, especially early in the game when he'll be the primary target. But I do think that the Gamecocks' nickel defense, especially with Lamons in the slot, matches up quite well with the ECU offensive scheme. So the defense, really, they just have to focus on their play calling and just shore up their tackling and their fundamentals. And I really do believe that if they come ready to play against this ECU team that thinks that they can come in and score a lot of points against the Gamecocks, I think if they can hold them down early, the defense will gain confidence throughout the game, and I really do think they'll grow and end up with a nice performance.
Man, Nelson completing over 80% of his passes through 2 games. That's very impressive, and ECU's got multiple looks on offense, so they could present some problems for the Gamecocks. South Carolina opened about a 7-point favorite, but that number has dropped over the course of the week. So we got a 4 o'clock kickoff for the home opener, South Carolina at Williams-Brice taking on East Carolina. Matt, give us a prediction for Saturday's game.
Yeah, I really do believe this will be a hard-fought game between the 2 teams. Obviously, both teams are adjusting to 2 new coaches coming in and putting in their own systems. ECU still has a lot of the old bones from the previous staff in terms of their offensive game, but East Carolina has been hitting their stride more quickly than South Carolina in terms of adjusting. ECU, I believe, will have the ability to hit on big plays, but I do expect South Carolina to bounce back and really improve tremendously on the offensive side of the ball. A score prediction for me this game, I'd say 27 Gamecocks and 24 for East Carolina. So I pick a South Carolina victory.
All right, Matt writes a weekly column here on GamecockCentral.com. You can read his work. He's our analyst for football and former Gamecock football player. Worked with NBC Sports last year, and he's now working with Reebok. Matt, we appreciate your time each week and look forward to talking with you again next week. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emerson. Have a good one.
All right, that's Matt OBrien, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. Thanks for joining us.